like to begin by offering my gratitude to the organizers and conveners of this seminar for having me here with you. I have learned a great deal since yesterday. And I would also like to begin by echoing the opening remarks of Jan Fiegel, who described our gathering as a collective reflection on the topic rather than a conference. Because what I'm going to present is a series of reflections or statements that I could tease out from the texts written by Muslim thinkers and theologians in the post-war period. In the process, I discovered that the topic of human dignity doesn't seem to have been tackled directly, perhaps somewhat surprisingly. Since yesterday, there have been many threads which I find of great relevance in the presentations and discussions we had. For my country, I will not mention them all, but in particular I would like to refer to a remark by René Fatah about the importance of historical, cultural, even geographic context in which our theologies develop, reminding us that theologies are nothing if not contextual. And in the Bosnian context, this means that I come from a Muslim community which, from its inception, has lived with and among Christians, Catholics and Orthodox, with whom we share the same language and sometimes even the same names and surnames. Given the time frame of my presentation, which begins with the post-war period, or from the time of what is usually referred to as the war in Bosnia, but which I would prefer to call as the war against Bosnia. Yesterday we talked about theology of Indonesia or in Indonesia, so reminding ourselves of that important distinction. I say war against Bosnia if we understand Bosnia as an idea and an ideal of people of different belongings and identities striving to live in mutual harmony for the common good, another thing that we heard about. The war against Bosnia was truly an event of biblical proportions, and I'm not going to dwell on it. But taking into account the effect it had on the country and its Muslim community as a starting point for our reflections, I would like to take us back briefly to the time of that war. So instead of describing it and referring to factual events on the ground, I thought it would be helpful if I began my series of reflections by reading out a short poem by the great Polish writer Czesław Miłosz. The poem was written in 1993, 1 year into the war, and it's entitled Sarajevo. And you had it in the material as an addendum. Sarajevo. Perhaps this is not a poem, but at least I say what I feel. Now that a revolution really is needed, those who are fervent are quite cool. While the country murdered and raped calls for help from the Europe which it had trusted, they yawn. While statesmen choose villainy and no voice is raised to call it by name. The rebellion of the young, who called for a new earth, was a sham, and that generation has written the verdict on itself. Listening with indifference to the cries of those who perish because they are, after all, just barbarians killing each other. And the lives of the well-fed are worth more than the lives of the starving. It is revealed now that their Europe, since the beginning, has been a deception, for its faith and its foundation is nothingness. And nothingness, as the prophets keep saying, brings forth only nothingness, and they will be led once again like cattle to slaughter. Let them tremble, and at the last moment comprehend that the word Sarajevo will from now on mean the destruction of their sons and the debasement of their daughters. They prepare it by repeating, we at least are safe, unaware that that's what will strike them ripens in themselves. The poem which I read as a moving and a powerful affirmation and defense of the dignity of the human being. The developments in Islamic theology in Bosnia after the war of 1992-1995 are presented here in a series of theses or claims made by three leading Bosnian Muslim theologians and religious intellectuals. These claims can be better understood by taking into account the following premises. First, something that I referred to already in a way, it is important to consider the formative historical, geographic and cultural experiences of Bosnian Muslim community, as these have also influenced Islamic theology in Bosnia before and since the war. They are as follows. The experience of living in a religiously plural society, being a religious minority among Christians, Eastern Orthodox and Roman Catholics, with a shared Slavic language and history. The lasting impact of Muslim modernist thinkers such as Muhammad Abduh and his ideas on Bosnian Islamic theology. State repression and the policy of secularization under the socialist Yugoslav regime between 1945 and 1990, which curtailed religious freedom and affected religious practice. The traumatic war against independent Bosnia between 1992 and 1995. More recently, the forces of globalization and the resulting pluralization and polarization of religious thought. Of all these, the war of 1992-95 and its immediate aftermath have posed the question of human dignity for theologians in the starkest terms. Second, in the Bosnian Muslim theological literature, the question of human dignity is often addressed indirectly and not necessarily from the point of view of theology, but from the point of view of law, politics, and history. Third, most of the Bosnian Muslim theological writing on human dignity is framed within the interfaith debates about religious freedom and tolerance and/or in response to conversations with Christians. One of the ways to present the development of Islamic theology in Bosnia is to highlight the contribution of the country's most influential theologians and scholars, focusing on the work of three leading such scholars, namely Fscire, Adyan and Rusmir Mahmud-Shahić. Some of their work is also available in English, and I invite you to look them up if you are more interested in what they have to say, not just on the topic of human dignity. It is possible to summarize Bosnian Muslim theological debates on the question of human dignity in the form of the following theses or claims. The dignity of human being, first, the dignity of human being stems from his or her potential to attain perfection, holiness, and joy. God has granted or made available this potential to all people, regardless of their race, language, or custom. Second, Bosnia offers a historical paradigm of religious pluralism, which is premised on the dignity of followers of various religions. However, as the Bosnian experience shows, plurality of religions can enrich society, but it can also be used to foment conflict. Third, the positive legacy of Bosnia as a religiously plural country has its roots in the God-mandated diversity of religions, which recognizes the dignity of human beings who follow other religions. 4. The centuries-long culture of good neighborly relations among Bosnians of various religions needs to be reaffirmed as a value for healing the traumatized Bosnian society. 5. The war against Bosnia in 1992-1995 was not a religious war, but without taking into account its religious dimension, it cannot be fully understood. 6. Denying sacred nature of one tradition is a betrayal of one's own. 7. Muslim intellectual heritage provides examples of affirming the dignity of others. One particular example mentioned in one of the texts that I consulted refers to Al-Biruni's account of Indian beliefs and customs. And from this, Europe can draw inspiration for the future. 8. The Muslims of Europe need others as much as they need themselves to fulfill their spiritual potential. Therefore, the task of theology is to encourage encounter with people of different religions, cultures, and worldviews in order to meet and affirm each other's human dignity. 9. Europe is a shared space of freedom for religious Muslims and of an encounter with Christians, Jews, Hindus, and others. We no longer interpret our religious traditions to ourselves and for ourselves alone, but also for the people of other religions. Muslims and the followers of other religions should read their sacred texts in mutual confidence and trust. And 10, both Christianity and Islam have an equal claim to being European, as both religions have come from outside of Europe. Thus, we should speak of the Judeo-Christian Islamic civilization and not just